My 17-year-old daughter worked day and night to earn a full-ride scholarship. My sister and parents took it from her on purpose. It's better for the family, they said. I didn't shout. I did this. 3 days later, the police were at their door. You'd think I'd recognize a disaster when it walked through my door in a plain white envelope. But nope. I thought it was a dorm assignment or a parking permit or some thrilling update about student ID activation. The kind of thing you leave for your kid to open because it's theirs, and you're a cool, chill, totally not over-invested parent. I didn't even open it. I tossed it on the counter, smiled at Ruby, my daughter, scholarship winner, miracle in thrift store jeans, and said, "Mail came for you." She took one look and went quiet. Thin envelope. Thin, cheap, nothing fancy envelope. The kind that says, "Here's a boring form," or "Oops, you're uninsured." Ruby didn't say anything. She picked it up, walked down the hall, and disappeared into her room. I went back to stirring whatever dinner was. Pasta, maybe? I don't remember. Because then she said it. "Mom?" Her voice cracked like a stick snapping in half. I turned the burner off and walked down the hall. The door was open. She was sitting on the bed, hunched over, holding the letter like it might catch fire if she moved too fast. She handed it to me. Didn't speak. Just handed it to me. I read it twice before it even registered. "We acknowledge your decision to decline the scholarship. Your award has been reassigned to the next eligible candidate." I laughed. Not a happy laugh. One of those single-breath, what-the-hell kind of laughs that comes from your ribcage when your brain short-circuits. I looked at her. "You didn't decline anything, right?" Ruby shook her head. Her hands were clenched so tight I thought she might bruise her own palms. Her eyes were already wet. "No," she whispered. "Why would I do that?" She didn't need to convince me. Ruby had cried when the acceptance came in. She'd baked brownies for the admissions team even though they were 200 miles away. She'd framed her acceptance email. Decline the scholarship? That would be like burning a winning lottery ticket. I grabbed my phone and called the number listed on the letter. Financial aid office. I wasn't even polite. The hold music was some kind of acoustic violin hell loop. Ruby sat next to me, shaking. Not crying anymore. Just stunned. A woman finally answered. "This is Megan. How can I help?" I went straight in. "We just got a letter saying my daughter declined her scholarship. That's a mistake." "She didn't." Pause. "May I have her student ID?" I gave it. She typed. I imagined the slow clack of betrayal. "We received a formal withdrawal email from her registered address last week," Megan said. "It's already been processed. The scholarship was reassigned." My throat dried up. "I'm sorry," I said. "What?" "It came from the address we have on file. The request was time-stamped last Monday, 7:47 p.m. Ruby looked at me. Her head tilted like she'd just been slapped. "I'm going to need you to read that address back to me," I said. Megan did. Ruby's face went white. "That's my email," she said. "But I didn't send anything. I'm going to need a copy of that email," I said to Megan. "Can you send it to me? We can forward the message to the same address it came from, yes." She replied. "Of course. Perfect." They were forwarding a fraudulent email to the exact account it had been sent from, where the real owner never saw it. And then she added the kicker. "Sometimes students change their minds. If she had second thoughts, we can't just undo it now, especially after it's been reassigned." "She didn't. Withdraw." Megan didn't flinch. Or if she did, I didn't hear it. She just went on, perky and professional. "If you believe there was an error, you're welcome to file a formal complaint. But once reassigned, it's rarely reversible." "Who got it?" I asked. "Who was the next candidate?" "I'm sorry, we can't disclose that." Of course they couldn't. We hung up. Ruby didn't cry. Not right away. She just stared at the wall like it might blink first. Then she said quietly, "I almost believed it. I thought it was real. But of course not. It was too good to be true." It broke something in me. Not because she was wrong, but because she'd said it like she'd known all along. like part of her had been waiting for the world to snatch it back. I put my arm around her. "We'll find a way," I said. But even as I said it, my voice shook. Because I didn't know how. We'd scraped by on part-time contracts and faith for years. This scholarship wasn't a bonus. It was the only plan. And somewhere, someone had stolen it, using my daughter's identity. The forwarded email hadn't arrived yet. But when it did, we'd know more. I didn't want to believe what my gut was already whispering. But the timestamp, the email, the fact that it had come from her own account. Something was wrong. Terribly, deliberately wrong. And someone was behind it. I don't know what I expected to feel, standing there in the living room waiting for a fraudulent email to arrive. Probably not murderous. It wasn't just that someone had stolen my daughter's scholarship. It was how they did it. The sheer coldness of pretending to be her, typing out a withdrawal message like it was nothing, then hitting send and watching her future collapse like a house of cards. And they did it from her own account, her own email, her identity. The screenshot was still on its way. Ruby was checking her inbox every 3 minutes. I was pacing like a caged animal, chewing a cuticle I didn't even realize was bleeding. Neither of us said much. What could we say? We were still hoping it was a mix-up, a hack, a weird glitch, something dumb and technical and fixable. But somewhere in the back of my mind, the pieces were already lining up, and they weren't forming a glitch. They were forming her. Vivian. I didn't want to go there yet, so instead, I did what moms do when they're losing control. I rewound the tape and tried to explain it to myself. I grew up 2 years ahead of my sister, which is just close enough to be compared at every possible stage of your life. Vivian was the golden one. Not obviously. Our parents weren't cartoon villains or anything, but there was always a second set of rules that followed her around. If I forgot to take out the trash, I was lazy. If she forgot, someone must have distracted her. If she cried, she was sensitive and needed comforting. If I cried, I was dramatic. And if we fought, well, don't use your little sister as an excuse. She's younger. You should know better. I learned early that protesting made things worse, so I stopped. Let her have the last cookie, the benefit of the doubt, the spotlight. Fine. Whatever. I built my life outside the favoritism radius. We both grew up, had daughters at almost the same time. And for a while, I let myself believe things were different. Ruby and Chloe were close, like genuinely close. Same school, same after-school programs, same goofy photos in matching pajamas. We raised them side by side, lived in the same town, shared babysitting, recipes, holiday tables. Our parents doted on them both, or almost both. It was subtle, like everything else. Ruby got praised for her kindness. Chloe got praised for her spark. Ruby was responsible. Chloe was a natural leader. Ruby did the dishes after family dinner. Chloe made everyone laugh and forgot the dishes, and somehow that was just as valuable. And when Chloe messed up, when she got caught cheating on a vocab quiz or snapped at a teacher, it was stress. Pressure. Teenage hormones. When Ruby cried after a bad day, sensitive. Needs to toughen up. Still, I brushed it off. They were kids, and the girls loved each other. Chloe came over for sleepovers. Ruby helped her with homework. They swapped books and inside jokes and shared Spotify playlists like a pair of nerdy twins. Ruby even helped Chloe with her scholarship essays. Because yeah, both girls applied for the same full-ride program. It was a long shot, national, competitive. We all knew there were tens of thousands of applicants and maybe 50 spots, but they went for it together, side by side, cheering each other on. When the acceptance came through for Ruby, I screamed. Then I cried. Then I panicked a little because I realized she might actually be leaving and I wasn't ready. But Ruby didn't do any of that. She just sat there quietly and said, "But what about Chloe?" I told her the truth. "Chloe will be okay. This is your moment." A few days later, Chloe got her reply. Waitlisted. You're first in line if someone drops out. Which, let's be honest, is academic speak for don't get your hopes up unless someone dies. Ruby almost didn't want to celebrate. It just feels mean, like I'm gloating. I told her, "You earned this, and Chloe's proud of you," and it seemed like she was. She came to the graduation party, just a quiet one, at our house, nothing fancy. She hugged Ruby, told her, "I'm happy for you. At least one of us made it." I thought that was the end of it, that we'd all move on. I didn't realize that would be the night everything started unraveling. The ping of an incoming email yanked me back into the present. Ruby opened it. Forwarded message. Scholarship withdrawal. Sent from her account. Timestamped Monday, 7:48 p.m. We both stared at the number. She blinked. That was the night of the party. We looked at the calendar. We looked at the clock on the screen. We didn't speak. Ruby's eyes darted. Her hands were shaking again. "It was her," she whispered. "It was Chloe." My heart dropped into my stomach. "What do you mean?" Ruby looked at me like she was watching herself realize it for the first time. She asked to borrow my phone. She said hers was dead and she needed to call her boyfriend. Pause. I unlocked it for her. Longer pause. She was gone for 10 minutes. I didn't breathe. Neither did she. We just sat there in the quiet of that realization, watching the floor like it might offer a solution. I remembered watching them laugh together that night. I remembered Ruby doing Chloe's makeup, helping her pick out a dress, offering to take photos on the good phone so Chloe would have better lighting. Ruby let her borrow her clothes, let her borrow her confidence, let her borrow her trust, and her phone. She didn't stab her in the back. She borrowed the knife. There's a kind of silence that comes after betrayal, not the calm kind, the loaded kind, the kind where even your thoughts are whispering because they don't want to make it worse. That was our house the night Ruby remembered. She sat curled up on the couch, staring straight ahead like she was watching her whole life rerun through static. I sat across from her, holding the email, the one she supposedly sent from her phone, sent while her cousin was borrowing it to call her boyfriend. The timestamp lined up, the tone lined up, the gut punch lined up. Only one thing didn't, the fact that Ruby never wrote it. She finally broke the silence. "We'll never be able to prove it." Her voice cracked like it had given up too. "She sent it from my phone. There's no chance." I looked at her, and maybe it was the deadness in her voice, or the way her shoulders had collapsed into themselves, but something in me snapped. "Then we find a way." I didn't tell Ruby I was going to see my sister Vivian. She didn't need to know. Not yet. I just said I had errands to run and grabbed the car keys like it was a normal Tuesday. Like I wasn't driving across town to look my sister in the eye and ask her if she'd help destroy my daughter's future. The entire drive, I rehearsed what I'd say. Calm, factual, no accusations. I'd ask questions. I'd give her the benefit of the doubt. And then she opened the door with a smile like nothing had happened, and every ounce of restraint I had fell into the driveway. "Hey," she said. "What's up?" I held up my phone. "This?" She stepped aside to let me in. I didn't sit, just stood there in her kitchen like a debt collector. This was sent from Ruby's email, at 7:48 p.m. on the night of her graduation party. That's the same time Chloe borrowed her phone. Vivian glanced at the screen, smiled. "You're sure it wasn't just Ruby?" I stared at her. That's when I realized she wasn't confused. She was stalling. "She helped your daughter with her essays, let her borrow her clothes, let her borrow her phone, and now her scholarship's gone." Vivian shrugged. Actually, shrugged. "When your daughter was helping mine, she wasn't really helping, was she? She knew they were competing. Before Chloe did." I blinked. "Excuse me?" She kept saying how guilty she felt Chloe didn't get it. Why would she feel guilty if she hadn't done something wrong? I felt like I was watching her through a pane of glass, like I was in a dream where nothing made sense and the floor might fall through at any second. "What are you saying?" She leaned against the counter. "Nothing. Just saying, the winner is whoever says the last word." And that was it. That was the moment I knew. She'd known all along. I drove home shaking, not from rage, not from grief, from clarity. She hadn't just let it happen, she'd helped. And if Chloe was smart enough to send that email without getting caught, then Vivian was smart enough to cover for her. But even Vivian hadn't counted on one thing. I'm a mom, and we remember everything. The camera. It hit me while washing my hands. Our backyard security camera. Motion activated. Full audio. Chloe had stepped outside during the party, said she needed a quiet place to call her boyfriend. She hadn't taken Ruby's phone far. Just out to the patio. Long enough to do what she needed. I pulled up the app, and there she was. Chloe, walking out the back door with a phone in her hand. 7:46 p.m. You couldn't see for certain that it was Ruby's phone, not on video. But you could tell one thing. It wasn't Chloe's. Different model. Wrong case. Definitely not the one she usually carried. She stared at the screen for a minute. Tapped. Tapped again. Then made a call. 7:50 p.m. She paced, laughed, said, "Yeah, I'll let you know," and walked back inside. Ruby's phone log confirmed it. One outgoing call to Chloe's boyfriend, placed seconds after the email was sent. She'd sent it. Then called him. One to cover the other. It wasn't a smoking gun, but it was enough to load one. I showed Ruby everything. The footage, the timestamp, the call log. She sat frozen, hands in her lap. "It won't matter," she said. "They'll just say I let her send it, or that I changed my mind and now I'm blaming her." She was right. They would say that. So I said nothing. I turned to the table, opened my laptop. "What are you doing?" "I'm filing a complaint with the university." She stared at me. "And after that?" she asked. "I'm filing a police report." Impersonation, fraud, educational sabotage. Call it whatever you want. It was theft. They didn't steal a wallet. They stole her future. I uploaded the footage, attached screenshots, submitted the timeline. Then I picked up the phone and called the non-emergency number for our local police department. "I'd like to report impersonation and digital fraud," I said. "Who's the victim?" "My daughter. She's 17, and she didn't just lose a scholarship. She was targeted." I didn't cry that night. Ruby went to bed early. I tucked her in like she was 5 again, kissed her forehead, told her it wasn't over. Then I sat in the kitchen with a cup of coffee I didn't drink and watched the status bar on the university portal spin in place. "We've done everything we could," I whispered. "Now it's up to them." But the truth? I wasn't waiting. I was getting ready. You'd think by this point I'd be used to betrayal, that there'd be some emotional scar tissue, that after watching my daughter's scholarship get stolen in slow motion by people we trusted, nothing could really surprise me anymore. But that's the funny thing about damage. It never breaks the same place twice. And the worst crack was still coming. I didn't know it yet. I thought the damage had already been done. 3 days after I filed the reports, my phone rang. No greeting. No preamble. Just Vivian. "You sent the police to my house?" Her voice was sharp and steady. Not shaken. Not wounded. Just controlled rage. The kind people save for property damage or parking tickets. Not fraud. "You think that's how you handle something like this? By involving strangers?" I opened my mouth. Closed it again. There was no point reminding her that I had come to her first. She wasn't interested in facts. She wanted outrage. "Chloe's been crying. You scared Mom. She thought someone had died. And you didn't even have the decency to warn us? You just made us a public spectacle?" I leaned back against the kitchen counter and looked at the tile. One of the corners was cracked. Just like this conversation. "I have to go," I said. I hung up before she could answer. And then I stood there for another full minute, holding my phone like it might vibrate back into meaning. "Mom and Dad were there," I whispered. Ruby was in the next room, refreshing her inbox. The university still hadn't replied. She looked up. "What?" "Nothing," I lied. "Get your shoes. We're going to see Grandma and Grandpa." She blinked. "Now?" "Now." We brought pancakes. Because we were the type of people who brought pancakes to a confrontation. Because Ruby believed they would listen if we were calm. because I believed, at least half-deludedly, that our only challenge would be convincing them, that if we just walked them through it gently, they'd understand. They'd take our side. They'd be shocked. They'd hold Ruby and say, "We didn't know. We're so sorry." God, we were stupid. They greeted us like it was any other morning. Coffee, hugs. My mom commented on Ruby's new shoes. My dad asked if we wanted orange juice. We sat at the kitchen table. I pulled out the folder. "Before we say anything else, we need you to look at this." They did, quietly, with too much composure. First the email, then the timestamp, then the security footage of Chloe outside with Ruby's phone, the call log, every page in order. Ruby sat beside me, hands folded, knuckles white. She looked like she was trying not to breathe too loudly. When my mother finally spoke, she didn't look at me. She looked at Ruby. "She's just a child." That's when I knew something was wrong. "She's 17, I said, "and she committed fraud." My father set down the papers. "She made a mistake. Maybe a poor decision. But she's a good kid." I blinked. "You think she did it?" They looked at each other, then back at me. "We thought you might come," my mother said. "We've talked about it. All of us." The words hit like glass breaking. "All of us?" "Vivian. Us. After you told her what you found." I couldn't move. My jaw clenched so hard it clicked. "You knew?" "We didn't do anything," my father said quickly. "We just agreed." "Agreed to what?" My mother didn't flinch. "That Chloe needed it more." Ruby stood up. Her hands were shaking now. "You helped her take it from me?" "No one took anything," my mother snapped, voice rising for the first time. "It stayed in the family." That's when I stood too. "It didn't stay in the family. It was stolen." "She was devastated," my father said. "We knew you'd take it badly, so we didn't say anything." "She's not as strong as Ruby," my mother added. "We thought Ruby would understand." Ruby made a small sound, like laughter without joy. "So you just let her lie?" "We didn't want this to get ugly," my father said. "You involved the police. What did you think would happen?" "I thought," I said, "that I'd find out who betrayed us." "You already knew," my mother said. I looked at her, really looked, and something inside me shut off like a switch. We left without finishing the pancakes. That night, I blocked their numbers. All of them. No speeches, no text goodbyes. I just hit the button and watched the screen go clean. Ruby didn't speak for hours. Then she opened the family group chat, scrolled until she found the last message from my dad, some meme about family loyalty. She uploaded 4 files, screenshot of the withdrawal email, screenshot of the call log, a still frame from the security video, and a short message. "Chloe sent the email from my phone. Vivian helped. Our grandparents knew. This is what happened. You can believe it or not, but this is what happened." She didn't wait for a response. We both knew we wouldn't get one. The university still hadn't responded. Ruby was called in twice more for follow-up clarification. The start of term was 5 days away. We had nothing. No scholarship, no funding, no backup plan. "It's not even about the money anymore," Ruby said one night. "It's that they looked at me and decided I didn't deserve it." I didn't know how to respond, because she wasn't wrong. 2 days before orientation, I got a message. Private. Quiet. From a cousin I hadn't seen since a funeral. "I saw what Ruby posted. I forwarded it to someone. I hope that's okay." It was more than okay. It was the only thing we had. The next afternoon, we got the call. "I'm calling from the Hope Bridge Foundation. We reviewed Ruby's story. We'd like to fully sponsor her tuition, starting immediately." I didn't cry. Not until I hung up. Not until I saw Ruby, curled on the couch, arms around her knees. "You're in," I whispered. She looked at me like I'd said it in another language. "We did it?" "No," I said. "You did." The next morning, she zipped her bag and stood by the door. "I really thought they broke me," she said. I looked at her. Tired, steady, brave. Then look at you now. The investigation didn't drag on. Within weeks, Chloe was formally charged. Computer misuse, identity fraud, academic dishonesty. The university expelled her and revoked the scholarship entirely, officially waiting for the outcome before making it final. She was blacklisted from all future scholarships. Her name landed on a list no parent wants to see, and then came the part no one expected. During questioning, Chloe cracked. She told them it had been her mother's idea. Vivian, the mastermind, the woman who once said she'd do anything for her daughter. Apparently she meant it. Vivian was convicted too, community service, a hefty fine, and 1 year of probation. She wept in court, of course, talked about reputations. Reputations she chose over truth. Chloe? They assigned her to clean the downtown bus terminal every Saturday. Ruby and I saw her once. She didn't look up. We walked right past. Ruby's original scholarship was never reinstated, but she ended up receiving something better. Now she's there, on campus, not hiding, not small. She tutors 2 nights a week, joined the debate team, and already got invited to a summer research program. Sometimes I look at her across the kitchen table and see the flicker of something returning, like a match just beginning to burn. Confidence, joy, power. She still doesn't talk about her grandparents or her aunt, and I don't push. We're no contact, fully. I didn't send a final message. I just blocked them all. Sometimes silence is louder. They thought they could rewrite her future. Turns out, they just wrote their own ending. You tell me, did I go too far? Or not far enough? Comment below and hit subscribe. My family threatened my 12-year-old daughter with a machete and locked her in a freezing basement without proper clothes. They told her not to tell me. She did anyway. I didn't cry. I took action. 3 days later, they lost everything. Dramatic, right? Sounds like the kind of thing you'd expect in a bad crime show, except this was my life last week. Now, before you ask, no, I didn't see it coming. If I had, I wouldn't have let my 12-year-old daughter stay with them for a single minute. I might not be perfect, but I'm not negligent. I thought they were difficult. I thought they were selfish. I thought they were greedy, but I didn't think they were dangerous. That's the difference. That night started like any other. I came home late, exhausted, after another long day at the rehab center where Dad was recovering. He's 72 now and had been feeling off, tired all the time, weak, hands shaking like he was nervous about a job interview he didn't have. He laughed it off as stress. Doctors, being doctors, wanted to run every test in the book. So rehab it was. I drove there every single day, sat with him, made sure he was eating, made sure he was walking. Because if there's one thing I've always been, it's the responsible one. So yeah, I was tired. I wanted to kick off my shoes, grab a glass of wine, maybe watch mindless television. But the second I opened the door and saw my daughter, I knew something was wrong. She was sitting there on the couch, bundled in a blanket even though the heater was on, pale, quiet. The kind of quiet that presses down on the room like fog. She sneezed, wiped her nose with the sleeve of her hoodie, and looked away when I asked how she was. "I'm fine," she said. The 2 most suspicious words in the English language. I tried again. "You don't look fine." She shrugged. That's it. Just shrugged. No explanation, no complaints, no usual 12-year-old drama about how unfair life was because she had homework or because TikTok deleted her video. Just silence. And let me tell you, silence from a kid is scarier than screaming. At least when they scream, you know what's wrong. I kept asking, gently. Rough day at school? No. Fight with a friend? No. Not feeling well? Just a shrug. I could feel my gut twisting because mothers always know. We know. And I knew something had happened. I just didn't know what. Dinner was a disaster. She picked at her food like it might bite her back. I tried a joke. Usually she laughs, even if it's pity laughter. This time, nothing. Just a sad smile that didn't reach her eyes. I went to bed unsettled, my brain screaming at me that something was wrong. But I didn't want to push her. I told myself she'd talk when she was ready. I told myself it was probably school drama. I told myself a lot of things, but none of them helped me sleep. And then, midnight. I woke up to the sound of my bedroom door creaking open. My daughter, barefoot, in her pajamas, crept into my room like a ghost. "Mom?" Her voice was barely a whisper. I sat up. "Sweetheart, what's wrong?" She stood there trembling, not from the cold this time, but from fear. Real fear. "You can't tell them I told you." My stomach dropped. "Tell me what?" "Promise," she insisted, her little voice cracking. I grabbed her hand. "I promise." She hesitated, her eyes darting around like she was afraid my mother or sister might burst out of my closet. And then, finally, she whispered it. "Auntie threatened me with a machete." I swear my heart stopped. At first I thought I misheard. Machete? Did my 12-year-old even know what that word meant? I wanted to say, "Are you joking? Did you watch some horror movie when I wasn't home?" But one look at her face and I knew she wasn't joking. Her lip trembled. Her hands shook. "She pointed it at me," she said. "Grandma was yelling. They made me go inside." I couldn't breathe. "And then," she swallowed hard, her eyes filling with tears, "they locked me in the basement. Just my t-shirt. It was freezing, Mom. I thought I was going to die down there." I pulled her into my arms, my brain short-circuiting. My mother. My sister. Threatening my child with a machete and shoving her into a basement like some kind of criminal. "What?" I whispered into her hair, my voice breaking. They said if I told you, something bad would happen to you." She pulled back, tears streaking her cheeks. I swore I wouldn't tell. I promised on God. Am I in trouble for breaking it?" "Oh God, my sweet girl. No, baby. No. You're not in trouble." My voice was steady somehow, though inside I was screaming. "You did the right thing. That promise doesn't count. You had to tell me." She clung to me, sobbing. And then, as if it couldn't get any worse, she whispered something else. "I heard Grandma. She was with another man. Not Grandpa. She laughed and called Grandpa a pathetic old fool. She said the only reason she stays is for his money." That was the moment something inside me snapped. My mother threatened my child. My sister locked her away. And together, they laughed about the man who had given them everything. I didn't cry. I took action. And believe me when I tell you, this was only the beginning. I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling like it had the answers. My daughter's words echoed in my head. Machete, basement, blood oath. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her frightened face in the dark. And then, like my brain was set on torture mode, the memories came. Childhood memories I hadn't thought about in years suddenly lined up like puzzle pieces, and for the first time, they made a picture I didn't want to see. Here's the thing. My mom had Anna before she ever met my dad. By the time he came into the picture, Anna was already 8, old enough to be her little shadow. My dad was older, established, a self-made man with his own business. He wasn't a millionaire back then, but he was successful, comfortable, ambitious. The kind of man who'd spend long nights at the office and still get up at 6 the next morning. When they got married, Mom had exactly what she wanted. Security, money, and a man who'd take care of her. And when I came along a couple of years later, I thought I was joining a family. Turns out I was joining a hierarchy. Anna was always at the top. My mom favored her like it was a sport. She took her out for girls' days, shopping trips, lunches, even the occasional spa outing when Anna got older. And me? I was left behind with whatever nanny was around that week. I remember the revolving door of babysitters. New faces, new names, never sticking around long enough to matter. Some were kind, others barely looked up from the TV. But what I remember most is watching my mom and Anna leave together, laughing, while I stayed home with a stranger. Birthdays told the same story. Anna's were grand productions, balloons, cakes big enough for 20 people, expensive gifts that showed my mom had paid attention. I'd get something too, of course, Something pricey, sure, but generic. Once, I unwrapped a porcelain doll with glassy eyes. I never collected dolls, never even liked them. But I could tell it wasn't chosen for me. It was just bought. Probably by a nanny. Probably with Mom's card. Anna got thought. I got receipts. And then there was my dad. Now let me be clear. He loved me. I know he did. But love is complicated, and sometimes it gets lost in the way it's given. He wasn't Anna's biological father, and he carried that like a badge of responsibility. He wanted her to feel like she belonged, so he poured himself into proving it. When she had a recital, he cleared his schedule, showed up with flowers, clapped the loudest. When she turned 16, he bought her a brand new car to keep her safe. When I had a soccer game, he was often still at the office, sending apologies through Mom. When I made honor roll, he said, "Good job, kiddo," between phone calls. When I turned 16, he told me he'd help with a used car, but that working part-time would teach me responsibility. He thought he was being fair. He thought, because I was his, I didn't need the extra effort. I'll never forget the day I finally asked him about it. I must have been 13, maybe 14. I said, "Dad, why do you always do more for Anna?" He sighed, put down his papers, and looked me in the eye. "Because she's not mine, sweetheart. I never want her to feel like an outsider. You're my daughter. You already know I love you." I nodded at the time, but inside I thought, no, I don't know. I want to feel it too. That was my childhood in a nutshell. Mom choosing Anna, Dad overcompensating for Anna, and me caught in the middle, not unloved, but unseen. And you know what happens when a child grows up unseen? They get good at being invisible. By the time we were adults, Anna was spoiled rotten, and Mom was her biggest cheerleader. The two of them operated like a unit, whispering together at dinners, rolling their eyes at Dad behind his back, constantly demanding more. I once overheard them in the kitchen, laughing quietly. My mom said, "He'd give us anything if we push hard enough." And Anna giggled like it was the funniest thing in the world. Meanwhile, Dad just kept working, kept providing, kept pretending everything was fine. And I built my own life. Married, had my daughter, tried to stay separate from all of it. But family isn't something you really escape. Not when they live nearby. Not when your child still wants to visit her grandma sometimes. And that was the cruelest part of it all. Because when my daughter went over there, sometimes just to see them, sometimes because she'd forgotten something, I thought she was safe. Sure, they were selfish. Sure, they were toxic. But I didn't think they were dangerous. Not to her. Until she came back whispering about a machete. Lying awake that night, I realized the truth. The favoritism, the greed, the constant selfishness, it hadn't stayed in the past. It had only evolved. And now, it was aimed at the person I loved most. And suddenly, all those childhood memories weren't just sad stories. They were warnings I hadn't understood. Warnings I would never, ever ignore again. My husband got home the next morning, suitcase dragging behind him, face tired from airports and boardrooms. He looked at me once and stopped. "You didn't sleep," he said. "No." I told him everything. The machete, the basement, the threats, the way our daughter had whispered it in the dark. And the other thing, what she overheard. Grandma laughing, calling Dad a pathetic old fool, saying she only stayed for the money. With a younger man. I watched his face shift. Confusion, then disbelief, then pure rage. "Sarah," he said slowly, "your dad isn't going to believe this on just her word." "I know. You've told me 100 times. He never sees it when it comes to them. If you walk in there saying this, he'll try to smooth it over." "With a machete?" My voice cracked. He didn't back down. "He needs proof, the kind he can't ignore." And he was right. My dad loved me. But when it came to my mom and Anna, he always turned blind. If I went in there with nothing but my daughter's words, he'd want to believe it was an exaggeration, a misunderstanding. That's who he was. So we needed proof. That afternoon, we drove to the house. I still had a spare key. Dad had given it to me years ago. just in case. My mom had her usual standing appointment that day, and Anna usually tagged along. I hated that I knew their schedule so well, but it meant the house would be empty. Walking up to the door, I felt like a trespasser in the home I grew up in. My heart hammered. My hands shook as I turned the key. Inside, it smelled the same. Lemon cleaner, faint perfume. I wanted to gag. We went straight to Dad's office. The security system was in a locked cabinet. Another key on Dad's ring had opened that once. I used it now. The DVR box blinked at me, red light steady. "Copy everything," I whispered. My husband slid in a USB drive. "We'll sort through it at home." Hours later, we sat hunched over the laptop, screen casting cold light across our living room. We fast-forwarded, eyes scanning the footage. For a while, nothing. The cat wandering across the yard, wind pushing branches. And then we saw her, Anna, in the garden. She was working, trimming overgrowth, machete in her hand. She hacked at a bush, dragging branches into a pile. Perfectly normal. Then our daughter appeared at the edge of the frame. She'd come unannounced, probably to grab something she'd left behind. She called out, and you could see Anna's head snap up. The audio picked up bits and pieces, muffled by distance. We couldn't hear every word, but the tone was sharp, confrontational. Our daughter must have said what she'd seen or heard. Anna froze. The machete dangled in her grip, and then she turned, pointed it at her. My breath caught. Even with the bad audio, you could hear my daughter's small voice, shaky, pleading. Then, a second later, my mom came storming out of the house, her voice clearer, shouting over the static. Together, they pushed her toward the door, herding her inside. We couldn't see the basement, of course, no cameras there, but we didn't need to. My stomach twisted just watching that much. "Jesus," my husband muttered. We kept scrolling. Later. Earlier. My husband stopped suddenly. "Wait, what's that?" Another clip loaded. The same garden, different time. My mom. With him. The younger man. They were close. Too close. She leaned in, laughing, touching his arm. He kissed her cheek, then her mouth, and then her voice, floating in the static of the mic. "He's such a pathetic old fool. The only reason I stay is for the money." I slammed pause. My hands shook. My husband whispered, "Sarah, this is everything." And he was right. The next morning, I drove to rehab with the USB in my bag. Dad was in the common room, sitting in a chair by the window, looking healthier already. He smiled when he saw me. "Hey, sweetheart." I sat down, plugged in the drive, pressed play. He watched. His face went still. Anna in the garden, machete raised. My daughter flinching. My mom shouting. Them hurting her inside. Then the earlier clip. My mom with the lover, laughing, kissing, calling him a fool. When it ended, Dad didn't move. His hand trembled against the armrest. "Dad," I said softly. He shut his eyes. "All these years. And Anna too. After everything." I reached for his hand. "You didn't deserve this." He opened his eyes again. There was no softness left. Just steel. "Call the lawyer," he said. His voice was steady. "Today." And soon, my mom and sister would lose more than just my dad's trust. They'd lose everything. When Dad walked out of rehab, he didn't look like the man I grew up with. He looked emptied. And not just by the surgery or the weeks of fatigue. It was the betrayal. The kind that hollows you out from the inside. "I don't want to go back there," he said at my door, duffel bag in hand. His voice was steady but flat. "Not with them. Not after this." "You won't," I said. "Stay here. As long as you need." He nodded, and when he stepped over the threshold, I swear his shoulders dropped an inch. Like my house was the first safe ground he'd stood on in months. He hugged my daughter first. Held her so tight I thought she'd disappear into his chest. And then he looked at me. "I should have seen it," he whispered. "No," I told him. "You couldn't have." I didn't either. But he shook his head, eyes wet. Not just now. Back then, too. I failed you more than once. And maybe I should have told him it didn't matter, that I didn't care anymore. But I did care. Of course I cared. So I let him say it, and I stored it away like a letter I'd waited 30 years to receive. The lawyer came the next morning. Not in some TV drama whirlwind, just a man in a dark suit carrying too many files. We sat at my kitchen table. Me, my husband, Dad. The USB drive sat between us like a hand grenade. I want to separate from her, Dad said. His voice cracked on her. I can't be married to someone who would... He stopped himself. The lawyer nodded slowly. We can start the process. I'll draft a petition for divorce, file it within the week. It won't be instant. But the court can grant temporary protections quickly. Financial freezes, access orders, even emergency custody of the house. Dad gripped the table. Do it! Then we pushed the USB across. The lawyer watched just enough. He paused the moment Anna lifted the machete, exhaled, and wrote something sharp into his notes. This is evidence, he said quietly. We'll preserve a copy for the police. This strengthens your position. That's lawyer speak for, holy shit. The police station was next. A small gray room with humming lights, the kind that make you feel guilty even if you've done nothing wrong. We told them everything. Dad gave his statement. I gave mine. My husband filled in what he knew. And then my daughter. My sweet girl. She told her story, voice shaking, eyes darting to me every 3 seconds like I was her anchor. I kept my hand over hers the whole time. The detective listened without interrupting, then slid the case card across. We'll open a case. This isn't a quick process. But with this footage and her statement, we can move. He didn't promise arrest tonight. He didn't promise miracles. He promised paperwork, interviews, investigation, which in real life is as good as it gets. On the way out, I braced myself for my phone to light up with Mom's name. But it didn't. Of course it didn't. She didn't know yet. That evening, after Dad had gone to bed early and my daughter finally drifted off, I sat with the laptop again. I couldn't stop myself. Don't, my husband said gently. I have to, I said. We scrubbed through more hours of footage, and that's when my phone finally buzzed. Mom. Not because she was psychic, but because she'd realized the security system had been tampered with. She must have seen the logs. Her texts came in a rush. This is a misunderstanding. Don't you dare show him. We can fix this as a family. Answer me. I blocked the number, renamed her Trash, kept scrolling. Then we found it. Late afternoon, the day after the machete. Mom in the garden with her younger man. Too close. Too familiar. And careless. We turned up the audio. Fragments came through. Pills. Schedule. Weaker since. Doctor won't notice. My blood ran cold. Back it up. Play again. Mom's voice, clear this time. He's not eating much, so I've been helping with his pills. Just a little extra. Makes him calmer. The man. Are you sure? Her laugh. That familiar, sharp laugh. It's just enough to take the edge off. The doctor sees what I want him to see. I froze. My husband whispered, Sarah. I know. We kept watching. Another clip, another day. Mom again, rolling her eyes. Funny thing, his hands shake less when I forget. Then I remember, and they're back. It's a delicate balance. Forget. Remember. Balance. That word balance felt like a knife pressed under my ribs. I slammed pause. We're calling the detective. Right now. Dad came out in his robe, hair mussed, face drained but alert. What is it? We showed him. He didn't speak for a long time. Just stared at the screen, the way you stare at a car accident you can't stop. She was dosing me, he said at last. Flat. Not shocked anymore. Just hollow. Yes, I said. And you started to feel better the second you left. He closed his eyes. For a moment he looked ancient. Then he opened them again, steel where sorrow had been. Call the detective, he said. The detective's voice over the phone was clipped but calm. Don't confront her. Don't tell her what you found. Keep the footage secure. I'll send someone for another copy tonight and elevate this to the DA's office. The lawyer, when I called, was colder still. We'll fold this into the filings. And Sarah, don't underestimate what this means. I hung up and sat in silence. My dad rubbed his temples. The man I'd once thought unbreakable now bent under the weight of pills he hadn't chosen to take. My daughter stirred in her sleep down the hall. My husband's hand found mine, squeezed once, hard. I closed the laptop. My mother's voice still rang in my head. Just enough. Manageable. Balance. And suddenly, the machete felt like child's play. Because this wasn't just cruelty anymore. This was calculated. And now, finally, we had proof. The trials took months, but justice came. My mother and her lover, convicted. Attempted murder, child endangerment. 15 years each. The motive was obvious once the lawyers laid it out. Because of the prenup, she couldn't just divorce him. That would have left her with nothing. But if he got sick, if he died, she kept the money, the house, the lifestyle, and the lover. Even his illness worked for her. Hospitals, rehab, endless appointments. While he was weak, she had free reign of everything. Poisoning him wasn't just about killing him. It was about control. Anna didn't go down for the poisoning. The evidence wasn't there. And maybe she didn't know. But the machete? The threats? Those were undeniable. The court handed her probation, mandatory therapy, and community service for child endangerment. Light compared to Mom's sentence, but enough to stamp her record forever. Dad disowned her anyway, stopped the rent payments, took her off the will, cut every cord. She threatened my granddaughter, he told me. That's all I need to know. And him? He went back to his own home. Rebuilt his life. He's not the kind of man to hide in my guest room. Too proud for that. Too wealthy. Too stubborn. Everyone knows his story now. The self-made millionaire almost brought down by the people closest to him. Last I heard, he's dating again. Of course he is. Men like him don't stay single long. As for my daughter, she's thriving. Therapy helped, but so did time and love and the knowledge that she was believed. Her laughter is back. Her spark is back. She's 12, and she's stronger than I ever was at her age. And me? I got what I wanted. The truth out, my child safe, and a rotten family legacy burned to the ground. In the end, they lost everything. But tell me, did I go too far or not far enough? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more.